Scott, welcome to Arts on Union for October 2014. I am so delighted to have you here throughout the month, and I want to talk a little bit about this particular piece, Middletown, which conveys a sense of being here in this town, walking parts of it, seeing it as it exists today. Can you just talk about how you work and what your process was to make this piece, and indeed all of your pieces, which are local?
Okay. Yes, this is part of a series that I've entitled Rail and River. The subjects are towns that have both the Susquehanna River and the railroads in common, and there are no shortage of them in this area. This is, I guess, what you might call a deconstructed composition. It's composed of different parts of buildings. I take photographs, I take an X-Acto knife and trim the photographs and select sections of photographs that I like, and then I place them together in a collage-like composition, project it onto the paper, and then apply the color. How do I determine where I put individual buildings or images? That's just, I guess, an intuitive idea about what looks good. Balance in terms of subject matter, in terms of value, in terms of colors. And most of them, although they're not what you would call realistic, the images are pretty tight, pretty realistically done, and I have a tendency to put the sky at the top and the ground towards the bottom. So they retain a little bit of that realism, in addition to the abstract qualities that are also represented in the piece.
Can you talk about the buildings that are in this piece in Middletown?
Yeah, the specific ones. This is a section of Alfred's Victorian. Is that still a restaurant?
It is.
Okay, Alfred's Victorian. This is a part of a residence that is just down the street, a couple of numbers. This and this are part of the Brownstone Cafe. They're actually not side by side. There's a little bit of separation here between this section and this section, but nevertheless, the people coming out after lunch one December afternoon. This is a building on the corner where North Union and Spring Street come together. So it's
right down the block.
Yeah, right down the block. And then, of course, obvious the railroad tracks, the main line that runs through Middletown between New York and Chicago.
I am always envious. No one does stone as well as Scott Campbell does stone.
Right.
Can you just talk a little bit about that? I mean, I look at your work and I just want to touch it because the visual texture jumps out on me. It looks so very real, and the light and the shadow on it as well.
Well, when you have light, it's easy to create texture because you create shadows, so you can see the irregular surface of texture. But with respect to your question about stone, the paper that I work on, Mi-Tints pastel paper, has a slight tooth to it. So even if you try to cover a color completely, it's very difficult to do. You can see, even in the sky, for example, and in these areas here, you can see some of the black paper showing through. So that's conducive to showing a rough surface like the stone. But in areas where there are some darks, for example, there's shadows here, and maybe there's a little bit of shadow in here, and up, particularly in this stone treatment right here, you can see the darker sections on the bottom of the stone. Those are things you just have to observe. And when you apply the color, you have to make sure you apply it in such a way that you create what you see. The first thing you need to be as an artist is an observer. You have to see things.
Great.
And then you can deal with them as how you want to represent them.
Agreed. Well, thank you very much. In addition to Middletown, we have Duncannon, Enola, Marysville, Camp Hill. What am I missing, Scott?
West Fairview.
West Fairview.
And Marysville. You said Marysville.
Said Marysville.
Steelton.
Steelton.
Yes.
We have a gorgeous piece of Steelton.
A couple of Steelton, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a second of Middletown. And we urge you to call Arts on Union and come by during the month of October to see Scott's work. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.